I'm planning on going back to UFC.
You do?
If they'll have me, I would like to go back and fucking whoop someone's ass there.
Well, who would you want to, if it was offered? Justin Gaethje, it sounds like.
I'm not fighting at 55 though, but right now I'm not fighting in there because there's nobody to fight really. It's kind of slow rolling.
Like UFC would.
I don't really have a name in mind right now in the UFC. That's why I'm not there right now in West.
But the name, the draw, the excitement that you'd bring to it, I feel like it's really lacking in UFC. Everybody's
That's
rushing, everybody's
I'd
wrestling.
be there if there was somebody that I wanted to go fight. But
I want to see the rubber match with Conor McGregor.
With time for sure. Yeah, whenever he's back. Me and him for sure got unfinished.
If there's another fight that would sell and it would be huge, it would be that. It would be Diaz 3.
Oh yeah.
That could be, especially if Diaz gets past Poirier.
Yes.
Even if he doesn't. I mean, just that fight alone. I mean, there's the history between those two guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be...
And it's so appealing stylistically as well, the fight, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a grappler at heart. I love grappling. But I also understand that a jiu-jitsu tournament will put people to sleep, you know. Even if you're into jiu-jitsu, it's hard to watch a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yes.
But anybody can see a punch hitting someone in the head and them falling down. That's, you know, that's exciting. And him and Diaz is such a great personality matchup. It's such a great skill clash. You know, if I was to design somebody that's going to bring the best out of Conor, you'd want someone that, you know, can hit back and take a big shot and put up at the trash. It's a beautiful fight. I would love to see that rematch.
Yeah, the thing about Diaz when they first fought was that he didn't give a fuck about trash talk. It didn't bother him at all.
So scientists aren't just suggesting it anymore, they're proving that social media is re-engineering our brains in real time. This isn't some hazy, overdramatic theory whispered on a podcast. They measured dopamine receptors, the microscopic switches that control pleasure and craving, and uncovered stark, undeniable links to the hours people lose scrolling their feeds. This is hard neuroscience staring back at us, not.
Conor McGregor is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Doesn't matter who he's fighting. What if it's a championship match? You have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on. Would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title. You're going to take the
Let's talk about how brutally direct Nate Diaz was when that White House scenario hit the table. There was no pause, no hesitation, no diplomatic phrasing while everyone else played the matchmaking game and floated polished lists of potential opponents. The moment the conversation drifted toward options, Diaz sliced through it. One name.
We're talking about zero fancy.
One target. Conor McGregor. That was it. No layered strategy, no theatrical build-up, no promotional choreography, just a stark, almost defiant certainty. It wasn't a suggestion, it felt like a verdict. While analysts debated styles and former champions speculated about legacy, Diaz made it painfully simple: if it's not McGregor, it's noise. And that's what makes this dangerous. Because when a fighter strips away the politics and reduces the future to a single collision, you can feel the tension tightening behind closed doors. He didn't need a microphone slam or a viral rant. The message was colder than that. Count me in. The long-teased trilogy, once dismissed as nostalgia bait, suddenly feels alive again, breathing quietly somewhere in the background, waiting for the exact second the switch flips. No contracts signed. No press conference staged. Yet everyone senses it. There's an inevitability hanging in the air, thick and electric. No committees required. No complicated negotiations necessary. deep down, every promoter, every fan, every skeptic already understands why this fight refuses to die and why it's inching closer whether anyone is ready or not.
Last thing, White House card, like you said, you want Conor McGregor.
Yeah, but the whole thing's at WWE, so
Right.
it's like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight actually.
Now fans want it.
Devontae and Paul should be good, and then because what else are you looking forward to? Hurry up.
Nothing.
Hurry up. What else?
If it's not you, McGregor, Ryan, it's nobody.
So it's good. It's good.
Now fans want you versus McGregor 3. Do you want that fight?
Yeah, for sure.
White House?
Yeah, what's that?
It isn't completely dead, at least not yet. But then Dana White stepped in, and the temperature shifted instantly. He didn't just cool the Trilogy chatter, he smothered it. Time, he stressed, is the ruthless dictator in this sport. And in mixed martial arts, a single year isn't a pause, it's an earthquake. Think about that. 12 months in this game can erase contenders, crown new kings, fracture careers, and rewrite every so-called certainty we cling to. Right now, McGregor has only dangled the possibility of a return like bait, and Diaz has made his interest crystal clear, but interest is not ink. There are no signatures, no sealed dates. White made it plain that any sense of inevitability people are clinging to is premature, almost naive. The UFC machine never stands still. Fight cards reshuffle overnight. Champions fall. Divisions tilt. Even the promotion's priorities can pivot without warning. By the time next July 4th arrives, he warned, the entire terrain could look unrecognizable, as if today's debates belong to another era. What feels electric now could dissolve into irrelevance. So to be precise, McGregor vs. Diaz 3 hasn't been buried. It's hovering in that unstable space between fantasy and reality. But it's nowhere near official. Not signed. Not sanctioned. Not announced. And in a sport this volatile, that distance between almost and never can close or collapse faster than anyone expects.
Said he's back in the pool. Diaz said he would love to be the opponent. Are you interested in that trilogy?
That fight's a year away. Landscape will change so much by next 4th of July. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to be on the card? What the main event will be or who will hold all the titles? Everything could be completely different. So it's not even worth thinking about it. Right?
Unlike Dana White's cautious wait-and-see stance, Michael Bisping didn't hesitate. He cut straight through the fog and called it destiny. In his view, there's no debate, no gray area, no room for alternative matchmaking fantasies. If Nate Diaz steps back into the octagon and Conor McGregor returns to the cage, then that's it, that's the fight. No asterisk needed. Every single time, it has to be them. Their rivalry, Bisping insists, already sits among the most iconic, most replayed, most emotionally charged feuds in UFC history. It's not just memorable, it's embedded. And placing a clash of that magnitude on a White House card, an event already draped in historic symbolism, wouldn't simply headline the night. It would define it. It would set the tone, the scale, the emotional temperature for the entire spectacle, especially alongside other blockbuster bouts potentially stacked at the summit. But Bisping's argument goes deeper than promotional hype. He believes McGregor doesn't need another payday or resume enhancer to cement his legacy. Financially secure, historically validated. Yet that's not the point. The point is the competitor buried beneath the empire. The fighter who still burns for one more defining moment. One more collision loud enough to shake the sport again. That hunger, that restless, almost defiant craving for something massive, something undeniable, makes McGregor's presence on a card of that magnitude feel less like speculation and more like inevitability, as if the stage itself is waiting for him to claim it.
Was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The one-on-one, there were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolutely insane. It probably will have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in the main event. It probably will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021, right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money. But fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back.
That wasn't where he stopped. True to form, the analyst pushed further, widening the lens from personal vendettas to pure spectacle. If we're talking about seismic fights of the rare, sport-altering collisions that can tilt the entire landscape, he pointed straight at Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira as the definitive showdown already haunting everyone's imagination. And it's not hard to see why. Pereira's violent ascent, his undeniable star gravity, and the audacity of conquering multiple divisions make the image of him standing across from Jones feel almost unreal, like a fantasy booking ripped from a video game. The stakes wouldn't just be high, they'd be historic. If Pereira somehow toppled an icon like Jones, it wouldn't register as a simple win. It would detonate the record books. It would carve a legacy so singular that no other name in MMA could mirror it. Yet even as he painted that colossal picture, Bisping grounded the moment in cold reality. As of now, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler remains the official trajectory, the bout people are told to expect. Still, he slipped in a warning. Once politics surface, once egos, leverage, timing, and shifting alliances enter the equation, certainty evaporates. In this sport, even the most ironclad plan can fracture without notice, pivoting violently into something no one predicted.
We're talking about super fights, if we're talking about something that's really going to get the MMA world excited, then it would be Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira, right? Alex Pereira is one of the biggest stars. He came back in style and destroyed Magomed Ankalaev. The man's phenomenal. He's unbelievable. He's a two-weight division champion. What he's achieved in this sport is ridiculous. If he was to face Jon Jones and if he was to beat him, then I guess he would go on a fight for the third belt, and that'd be it. That'd be set in stone. Alex Pereira would, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, be the greatest mixed martial artist to ever compete. Simple as that. There's no one that's fought for 3 belts or won 3 belts. Just the thought of that alone is crazy. I mean, it took me about, 26 fights in the UFC to even get 1 title shot. So they're not easy to come by. Anyway, so there's that. Now they're talking about Conor McGregor fighting Michael Chandler. That's going to be the fight that happens. We all know about that. There's nothing new there. And the thing is, if Donald Trump wants it, if the President of the United States wants it, and as Eric says in that video,
The ever-sharp MMA insiders didn't let the hype spiral unchecked. Instead, they pulled the conversation back to timing, circumstance, and most critically, the pulse of the fans. From their vantage point, the next truly magnetic event, the one guaranteed to dominate every headline and debate, hinges squarely on Nate Diaz. Not on wishful matchmaking. Not on nostalgia. On proof. They argue that Diaz must storm the welterweight division with a statement victory so undeniable it silences doubt. Only then, they insist, does a trilogy with McGregor transform from indulgent fantasy into a spectacle worthy of a White House stage. At this moment, the fanbase feels fractured, split between loyalty and logic, tossing around alternatives like Jorge Masvidal or even Glover Teixeira as possible next opponents. The uncertainty fuels the noise. But beneath that surface chatter, something more focused is forming. Influential voices, seasoned observers such as Ariel Helwani among them, aren't shouting, they're subtly steering the narrative. Calmly, deliberately, they sense where the gravity is pulling. Diaz versus McGregor, the fight people pretend to weigh objectively while quietly hoping it materializes. Publicly, the debate remains cautious and analytical. Privately, anticipation simmers. Because if Diaz delivers that emphatic win, if he forces the conversation with violence and clarity, the division ends. The stage sets itself. And what now feels like speculation could harden overnight into the only showdown anyone truly wants to see.
Next, okay, if Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay, and he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me, because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return.
On an entirely separate front, Chael Sonnen, never one to tiptoe around controversy, cut straight through the feverish speculation about Conor McGregor headlining a White House spectacle and injected a sharp dose of skepticism. Yes, he admitted, McGregor remains the sport's most magnetic attraction, the biggest draw, the name that bends headlines. That much is undeniable. But Sonnen pressed the uncomfortable question, does fame alone qualify someone to anchor an event of that magnitude? Star power, he argued, is not the same as suitability. Then he pivoted, sketching out how he would assemble a dream card if resources were limitless and politics non-existent. Would you prioritize a razor-close title fight with divisional consequences? A thunderous heavyweight collision built on raw menace? Perhaps a high-stakes women's 135-pound showdown? Or the ultimate gamble, a champion versus champion super fight with belts on the line and legacies at risk? His point wasn't abstract, it was surgical. Promoters must look beyond glitter. The real calculation is impact. Does the matchup promise tension that crackles through arenas and screens alike? Does it hook the casual audience while satisfying purists? Because celebrity may open the door, but only a truly compelling contest keeps the world watching. And in an event designed to echo beyond sport, spectacle without substance simply isn't enough.
Is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there, because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Doesn't matter who he's fighting. What if it's a championship match? You have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on. Would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title.
Sonnen didn't stop there. He went further, dissecting why the non-stop McGregor buzz tied to this supposed landmark card feels not just speculative, but premature to the point of absurdity. Picture it clearly, McGregor competing in mid-2025 for a mega event scheduled in 2026, inside a venue that hasn't even been constructed yet, with tickets nowhere near release. Framed that way, Sonnen argued, the narrative begins to wobble. It stops sounding like long-term planning and starts resembling fantasy booking dressed up as foresight. Then he zeroed in on the real tension. If Conor McGregor isn't holding a championship and isn't actively positioned in a title chase, what exactly anchors him to the top slot? Because placing him in the main event of a historic spectacle quietly suggests the division's true champion, the sport's active pinnacle, won't be closing the show. That implication matters. A McGregor headline without gold on the line, especially at an event built on grandeur and symbolism, complicates the sales pitch. The hype machine can roar, the promos can glitter, but the absence of a belt subtly drains legitimacy from the climax. Even if two fully sanctioned title fights strengthen the undercard, the gravitational pull of the night shifts. The closer must feel definitive, consequential, irrefutable. Otherwise the spectacle risks feeling inverted, massive in marketing, yet slightly hollow at its core.
And it's one of the reasons that I'm struggling with the idea that McGregor is being penciled in the middle of 2025 for a card that sits dead center in the middle of 2026 at a venue yet to be built, for tickets that are yet to be on sale. I struggle with it because we're openly saying if we're going to put Conor on there that there's no title. Unless you believe that Conor McGregor is going to demote himself, right? The biggest draw should be the main event. Your biggest star, regardless of belt, should be the main event. But in this case, if our biggest draw and our biggest star is not a champion or a contender in any weight class, we're going to acknowledge up front that our biggest show will not contain a title, which makes it a little difficult down the road to go, this show's bigger than big. In fact, we got 2 titles up. Yes, you heard me, there's 2 titles. When can you ever get that? And nothing more important.
And just when it seemed the debate couldn't intensify further, Ben Askren detonated it. In his trademark blunt, almost mischievous tone, he unleashed a statement destined to divide the MMA world. According to Askren, Nate Diaz, despite the cult following, despite the promotional push, despite the roar that follows his name, is, in pure competitive terms, an average fighter who mastered the art of appearing elite. It was the kind of claim that doesn't just challenge a resume, it challenges a myth. Askren pointed to Diaz's record, his uneven stretches inside the UFC and beyond, arguing that the numbers tell a far less glamorous story than the aura suggests. In his framing, Diaz's fame stems less from consistent dominance in the octagon and more from razor-sharp self-branding, perfectly timed moments, and a rebellious persona that fans fiercely protect. He didn't pretend the take would land softly. In fact, he almost relished the fallout, hinting with a grin that saying it aloud would spark an immediate social media inferno from Diaz's loyal base. And that's the spark. Because love him or loathe him, Askren understands pressure points. By questioning legacy instead of loyalty, he ensured the reaction wouldn't fade quietly. It would rage. For days, maybe longer, the MMA community would fracture into camps, statistics versus sentiment, results versus resonance, arguing not just about Diaz, but about what greatness truly means.
Nate Diaz, he is the most puzzling. He's not. I don't even think he's that good. I'll go get his record if you want me to. But he has convinced people he is good at fighting somehow, some way.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna go get his damn record, Daniel. It's not.
But he won the Ultimate Fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. I'm saying he was good for the time that he was fighting.
No, he wasn't. He was average.
He was. Yeah. Okay. I'm just.
Okay.
Trying
I'm gonna go get the record. I'm gonna go get the record. They're gonna yell at me. I know this. Okay. Let's see. Well, his record is 21-13.
Oh my God. Really?
Yes, that's not that great.
Okay, I take it back. I'm taking it back.
And he was going into the UFC, he was, I think it was 5-1. So within the UFC, he was 16-12.
That's not good.
That's not very good.
That's not good. There's really no way to twist that into good.
Yeah. So but you know, his personality. That's another one's like, how did his personality catch on? He says funny things sometimes. He's a little bit different. I don't. Yeah. And listen, if you post this clip, please don't post this clip.
Now, shifting sharply to the sprawling debate over who truly deserves a spot on the White House card, the conversation takes on nearly mythic proportions. Mitch Jones moving toward heavyweight is undeniably intriguing, yet Daniel Cormier remains adamant that Jones's peak, and the fight fans crave most, lives at light heavyweight. He singles out a potential clash with Alex Pereira at 205 pounds as perfectly suited for such a monumental stage. Cormier concedes that Jones has packed on considerable size over his career, but he insists dropping to the 205 mark is entirely feasible, preserving the viability of this fantasy matchup. Meanwhile, blending pragmatism and fan insight, John and Nick laid out a detailed blueprint for the White House fight schedule, with the main event reserved for the undisputed heavyweight title, likely Tom Aspinall defending against the formidable Suryagon. Yet the excitement surrounding Jones versus Pereira still teeters on whether it should headline the co-main slot, while a bantamweight showdown featuring Marvin Vettori promises to thrill the crowd. By June 14th, they envision a spectacle featuring 4, maybe even 5 undisputed belts contested on iconic grounds, a convergence that would render the event historic. Not to be outdone, Brendan Schaub unveiled his dream card, packed with stars like Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, Sean Strickland, Pereira, Jones, and of course the epic Conor McGregor vs. Diaz bout, insisting even the undercard with prodigies like Gable Stevenson and Bo Nickel makes the night unmissable. Against this high-octane planning, Henry Cejudo weighs in bluntly, backing Jones vs. Aspinall as the fight of true historical resonance, a contest capable of defining the card and elevating it to iconic status. So after digesting this torrent of expert visions, where do you stand? Will Nate Diaz truly return to face McGregor, or is the champ plotting another path for his comeback? Share your predictions below, and hit that subscribe icon to follow every twist in this unfolding saga.